Welcome, welcome, welcome to this. Family, welcome to this edition of I'm Not Crazy, but listen, once upon a time in a not so far galaxy, not too long ago, I once knew a woman who woke up with pharyngitis and she called in to say she wasn't coming to work, but she got her nurse who said, Your patient said she just might be dead when you come back. And that young whippersnapper doctor pulled herself out of bed, went to work, and actually wrote the questions down to her patients and stayed there that day. Why did she do it? Because she thought she would go to work and someone would say, Oh, darling, you're sick, go home. And she was looking for permission to practice self care. Family, that woman was me. She is so long gone. I am here today with a few amazing pharmacists and physicians to talk to you about self care and rest and relaxation. So sit back, relax, call your friends because this is a session you do not want to miss. We're talking self care. Have a good night, sis, and practice some self care strategies. As I introduce our guest today, please do what you always do. Drop your names in the chat and let us know where you are listening in from. Today, we have amazing guests like Dr. Chriselle Nash out of Arkansas, physician extraordinaire. We also have with us Dr. Marlene Battle, mother, wife, pharmacist extraordinaire. We have Dr. Judy Ali, pharmacy director. She's over this and that, a whole bunch of stuff, and she has some kids. Dr. Shalitha Jones is a hospitalist, and she is the founder of Chat. All of these ladies are doing a whole lot of big things. And I want you to know we are here because we don't always practice what we preach, but we know the benefits of what it is. So, on this edition of I'm Not Crazy, but we're going to talk about not too scientific or any of that. But you're going to notice that we have maybe a little Love Jones vibe as we start out, perhaps a little scientific and then find our way into that Love Jones girl vibe, black swag vibe. Now, when I think of self care, I think of relaxing baths, candlelit baths. I think of perhaps a nice glass of bubbly. I think of watching a little Abbott Elementary, going on a girls' trip. I think of, sometimes big things, maybe getting nails done. But during the pandemic, I've had to shift and think of self care as stealing away for 3 or 4 minutes just to rejuvenate, deep breathe, because I've had to make self care and rest a part of my everyday vibe just to get through. What does self care look like to you, ladies?
I think
Well,
it looks like exactly what you said. I think those are the things that we like to focus on. They make us feel good, and we like to talk about those things because they're feel good things. But I think sometimes when you're doing self care, you look at the good things, the feel good things, but sometimes self care means doing the hard work too, kind of taking sometimes a step back, a deep look into yourself and working on some of the things that you may not necessarily be happy about with yourself. That's a form of self-care too, not one of the nicer parts of the things that we like to focus on, but it helps to get us to where we need to be, and I feel like it helps us to be able to enjoy those other things more.
I love it. That sounded a bit like self discipline. sometimes doing the things that don't feel so self-carish, but they truly, truly are. Setting boundaries with yourself is truly what I heard. Dr. Ali, I think you raised your hand as well.
Yes. One of the things that I have to, it's so funny that Dr. Jones said that because self care can sometimes be very difficult to do. You may feel an amount of guilt for doing it. Like she said, I have 4 children, I am divorced, I have a very busy career and community life, excuse me, community life. So sometimes when I pull away to do things for myself, I feel a little bit guilty. So first overcoming that guilt, giving myself permission to do those things. One of the things I've done lately, like Dr. Maddox said, it doesn't take a lot of time, but it has a huge impact, is meditation. And meditation can be done anywhere, any time of the day. And it can be 1 to 2 minutes, it can be 10 minutes. But pulling yourself out, getting present, grounding yourself, that has made a big difference. My coworkers say, something's different about you. You're different lately. And that's what it is. And I don't feel like I'm doing anything. Actually, I don't feel like I'm doing it right. But I'm just still doing it. So, just one example of how I take care of myself.
And I really want to echo Dr. Ali. You know, when we think about self care, we think about the big vacation, the once a year or twice a year thing, and all this planning. And that stresses me out. But I mean, my colleagues here are some amazing women who do it all, including family. And I don't have family, but I still feel all of that stress from career and all the community stuff that we do. And I have to remind myself even to simply sit down, breathe,
Mhm.
take some deep breaths. So sometimes self care can just mean, okay, I'm taking 5 minutes. I'm going to sit here, I'm going to clear my mind, and I'm going to take some deep breaths.
Mhm.
Something as simple as that.
Yes.
Absolutely. And family, I will tell you, I had to convince these ladies to come on because they were like, you know what? We need to watch this show. I don't know if we need to be recording. But here's the thing, we don't always get it right. But
Mhm.
sometimes we level set, we pivot, and then we start afresh. And so, a part of why I wanted all of us on here, even though we may look like the most unlikely cast of characters to be talking about self care, is because I wanted to remind, some who are walking as presidents, as president elects, as directors. I wanted to also use this as an opportunity to remind you that even in the hustle and bustle, and as we're hearing the hustle and grind, that we can kind of sit back and just breathe. And for me, this is breathing. Dr. Battle.
I was just listening and reflecting as others were talking. And I thought about when you asked me about coming on, this show. The first thing I said was, what is self-care? What is rest? Because I feel like I really don't have either of those things sometimes. And so I get tickled because yes, I feel like I'm the one that really needs to watch it, or I need to learn more about self-care and resting. But I do live a busy life. I'm married, and have 6 beautiful children. And so with that alone, it keeps me busy. I keep a busy work schedule. And so I'm trying to learn how to balance and find time for work, for children's schedule. I work full time. When I come home, it's time to cook dinner, and then they're off to bed. And so when I can finally get them off to bed, and then I find some quiet moments. Now I don't feel guilty, like Dr. Ali said. I never feel guilty about taking a few quiet moments. I love to read. I have a Kindle app, and so for a few minutes every night, that's usually what I'm doing to unwind. That's my self care, my time to myself. And so I enjoy reading. I welcome work trips. I love going on a good work trip because although it may be work, but at the same time, when it's all said and done in that evening or nighttime, then that's time for me to, just reflect and just have some quiet time.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I wanted you all to hear their stories because sometimes I remember one of my coaches really kind of struggling with the fact that she was a single mother with two children and she resented people saying, get self care, take, rest, get self care because she didn't feel like that was an option. And so every person who is in this venue right now are running things. They have busy lives that don't look picture perfect. Perhaps that they look perfect on the outside looking in, but the reality is, we're trying to plan a trip right now and for self-care, and my dog Oliver Twist is hindering us. We got to find a place to stay. So life is happening. Life is lifing while we're having these these discussions. But I remember the first time, as a woman of faith, hearing labor to enter into his rest. And that sounded like an oxymoron, the labor to enter into God's rest, until I started lifing. And I realized I could be sitting on the sofa, not doing anything, looking like I was resting, but my mind was popping and I was truly working. Or, as you all know, I could be in a social situation that was supposed to be fun. And any of the ladies on here knows that because I enjoy my work and they enjoy their work, in a matter of minutes, we could be talking about work and not. And so that labor to enter into his rest, labor to enter into relaxation, labor to enter into self care. What does that, how do you know, ding, 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 it is time to press pause and labor? And notice I didn't ask how you do it because I already know you guys. But when does the ding, ding, ding go off and it's time to pause and prioritize self care and rest? And I hear you laughing, Dr. Battle. So I need to know.
Yeah, I get tickled by that because I feel like I have my personal reset alarm, and that would be my husband, Mr. Battle. He will let me know in a heartbeat. I think you got a little bit too much going on, or you being pulled in this direction and that direction, and it's just time for you to get somewhere and sit down. So that's why I laugh because I thought about him, and I think that he can gauge me pretty well to know that, when I've had enough or if I'm getting, frustrated with some things, then yeah, it's definitely time to, take a step back. Or if I'm running all day and meeting after meeting, and kids' schedules, it's time to take a step back sometimes. So he's like my personal alarm.
I'm his tag team partner because we're friends on Facebook. And so I will see her at COVID vaccine shot. I'll see her in different cities. Now she left out that her husband is in ministry, which means she's in ministry, right? And so
If you
I'll see
say
her
so, Dr. Maddox.
so I'll see her at all these events, and I'm just like, hey, let me teach you how to say no because I understand.
Yeah.
And family, you need some people in your corner who will not guilt you into saying yes, who will
Yes.
say, I think this is a mutually beneficial opportunity. However, if this is a no for you, that's okay. Like, you have to choose your tribe wisely in order to execute self care. Would
Mhm.
you agree? For sure. Dr.
Definitely.
Jones, did I see you're about to jump in there?
Oh, definitely. I can say from my experience, over the years, I've learned when I don't pay attention to that alarm bell. When I don't pay attention to that alarm bell, the next thing is I get sick with whatever it is, the cold, the flu, or whatever. And I think that's God telling me, okay, I'm gonna make you sit down. I tried to tell you before. Okay.
Mhm.
So, but if I'm paying attention to myself and before then, it'll be things like I can't focus, or I'm repeating, going to have to check back and make sure I did X, Y, and Z, you know. But the other thing, and the most important thing, is something that you said, Dr. Maddox, and that is my accountability partners. And what I'll find, and these ladies around this call are those women. We see each other everywhere, and we'll just call and say, hey, just checking in. How you doing?
Mhm.
What's going on? Hey, I saw, that type of thing. And so that really, really helps. That somebody just cares and is paying attention and not just calling you for the next thing that somebody wants you to do.
Mhm.
You know? So I think paying attention to your body, even in terms of I'm not sleeping well when I start to reach that point, or no matter how much I sleep, I don't feel rested when you wake up. Those are my warning signs.
That's good. That's really good. Pay
Mhm.
attention to your body because many times you can feel it all in here,
Mhm.
all in your shoulders where you feel really tense, and even as you are just being, it's almost like your breathing is more shallow and it's not as deep. Many times your thoughts may be going 90 to nothing, and you can't just kind of dial your brain down, and so sometimes people around you will say, you look tense. And listen, when they tell you that, don't bite their heads off because it takes a lot of courage to shoot straight with people. You could just go on about your business, but it takes a lot of courage. So I like that accountability partner, that paying attention to your sleep, your significant others saying, "Hey, sugar boo, it's time to dial this back." Listen to them when they tell you that, okay? And because we are the queens of, I'm just going to press my way through. And during the pandemic, I have prioritized not pressing my way through on everything. If I feel oppressed, many times that means it's time to get some rest. So I love that. Dr. Ali or Dr. Jones, would either of you want to add anything before we go on?
I think that's a very good point and something that people should focus on because, like Dr. Nash said, if you do not take that time for yourself, your body will force you to take that time. And so it's important to recognize those triggers. I know sometimes it's for me, if I'm sitting there and I have to tell myself, unclench your jaw, relax your shoulders. And I literally am saying this to myself. And as I do that, I feel myself start to relax. Now, sometimes other people, they may be like, you're a little irritable today. Because that's not generally my personality, but people around me, if they pick up on that, they kind of give me a little nudge. You sure you're okay? Are you getting enough rest and things like that? But it's very, very important, the accountability partners and also that self accountability, that you recognize what either your triggers are, your signs, so that your body does not have to force you to take the rest that you need.
Yes, and our audience is loving what you said, Dr. Battle, about that accountability partner. We have Kenyatta Myers talking about who her partners are. And she also said, the Lord Jesus Christ gets me through, especially during the rough and tough times. And thank you, Miss Myers, and everybody as you're signing on. But I will say, what she introduced was that soul care. I have found that it is absolutely essential for, as I am practicing self care, to practice soul care. I was talking to one of my co hosts on a different platform recently, and she talked about soul care because we are helpers and we are really privy to a lot of people's stressors and grief and that kind of stuff that can really wear on us because we really are people who empathize. And if you are empathizers, it can really burden you. Certainly, if you're not casting your cares on your creator and you're not practicing self-care, you can look up and you're doing that. How do you all practice soul care in your respective practices of self-care? Does that question make sense?
Mhm.
Yeah, it really does. And I'll start. And I come from a Christian perspective. And for me, it is what we learn about in church of planting the word.
Mhm.
Um, and what I find is I do when I wake up in the morning. The first question is, what am I happy for? What is my gratitude for this day?
Mhm.
I wake up, and sometimes it's as simple as I am taking air into my lungs. Thank God I am here. All right. So, what are your
Mhm.
blessings? What are those three things? But it's also for me planting scripture. So I will read something, and whatever it is, it comes back when it's supposed to, no matter what I'm
Mhm.
what I'm going
Mhm.
through my day. So I don't have I don't feel like I have control during the day, but when I wake up in the morning, that's the first thing. So that's my first thing with soul care.
I love it. Gratitude,
Mm.
prioritizing gratitude and prioritizing. I think I may have had somebody say meditation earlier.
Mhm.
Anyone else want to jump in?
I'll say for my soul care, it is inspirational messages that I receive every morning. My dad started this thing where he would just send me an inspirational message or quote. Usually it's scripture based or Christian based, Dr. Nash. But it usually is just a really good one. And especially on, when you feel like you're going through some things or you're going to be faced with a long and hard day, it just seems like his inspirational quotes and messages are just right on time. I would shout out Miss Sybil Ward. She is our HIV lead person with AMBPA and as well as a minister. And when I tell you she can bring some inspirational messages every morning too, I receive them every morning, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, and I welcome them because I start my day. And then I have a pastor that I met doing COVID vaccines when I was working at Dr. Williams' clinic. Him and his congregation came in to get their COVID vaccines, and I just developed a relationship with them. And this Pastor Isaiah Bennett, and so I receive daily inspirational quotes from him. It usually comes about, mid morning or afternoon time. So that carries me on for the rest of the day. Or, if I'm just really going through, then there may be a song, that I can just reflect on and maybe just have to hum. Even I'm at work, I have to shut the office door and just hum it to get me through some things. So
Absolutely. Now, you in the chat, you drop in how you're practicing soul care as well, so you can give us some ideas. Because for those of you who are just tuning in, we are talking about getting rest, getting some sleep, and getting rest, practicing self care. Notice I didn't say perfecting self care. We are practicing self care because we don't always practice what we preach, but we're trying to do better and we're having that conversation. So, I like it. I like it. Others sending you inspirational messages, listening to those inspirational messages. There's nothing, having he- kind words or encouraging words on your lips. That is something that can really just, it's almost like water in a desert sometimes. The only difference between someone being able to make it through the day in a happy way or in an encouraged way is just, it could just be the words on your lips. Because think about it, how many times have you had someone circle back to you and say, when you said that really encouraged me, and you smile and you nod, and you don't even perhaps remember saying it, but they held on to that word and that really helped them. And I'll take it one step further and say, please do this to children. Please do this to special needs children as well. I had a lady reach out to me and was in tears. And I didn't even remember the incident because I had leaned down and talked to a young man who had autism. And I was making eye contact. And she said, he must not have been talking back to me, but I just talked to him. She said, you didn't offer me any counsel that was unsolicited. You just talked to him. And that meant the world to her. And unfortunately, I didn't even remember her or him because I just talked to children. So it wasn't out of character for me. So as you are prioritizing saying your kind words, remember the youth and certainly anyone with special needs, because that may be something that is just water in a desert. I love those points. Anyone want to add anything before we move on? And the question was originally, how do you practice soul care? Anything else? Um,
I do those things as well. I try to do a morning devotional when I wake up in the morning just to start my day. Usually there's a scripture and prayer, and just to kind of set the tone for the day. And then also to allow myself to say how my day is going to go, as in, this is going to be a good day. Because I've actually found that when I do that, I have a good day. And sometimes days that I may think ahead of time, I'm like, oh, this is going to be rough. I intentionally block myself, say a prayer, think back on scripture. One of my favorites is 3 John 1 and 2, that kind of connects the physical health, the soul health, and our spiritual and mental health all together. That's one that I rely on all of my kind of trinkets for my Dr. Sean and everything. I put that scripture there because I think it helps us to remember that all of this works together.
Mhm.
I love it. I love it. And for me, I kind of blend all of what you said with the spiritual and the journal. You all probably can't see this, but one of our good friends of the show, Christy Jackson, Dr. Jackson, she's done this journal, Pure and Lovely. And when you open it up, there is a meditation that you read and then a place for you to reflect. And so I have been a lifelong journaler and writing down prayer, sometimes the matters of my heart, and then affirmations are really good for me. I am very big. I mean, the world calls it affirmations. For me, it is as a man thinketh, so is he. And so I am speaking so that I can start thinking, so I can be it. So I'm definitely one of those people who believes, yes, in speaking life. If the scriptures say that the heavens and the earth were created by words, I certainly believe that I should be speaking word and creating with my tongue as well. So certainly that. Now, what are some of the pitfalls that keep you from living your best lives, ladies? What are the pitfalls that hinder you? Oh, and audience, please, you jump in and I'm going to circle back and look at what you put in there. But what are some of the pitfalls that can hinder you? And let me just start off because I feel like that is something I'm an expert in. Uh, and for me, it is the people who live in my house. When I walk through the door, it's mama, mama, sweetie, do you know, Kenya? And I hate to do this because you know I love my Oliver Twist, but my dog as well. Gone are the days when I get to sleep in. That little rascal wakes up bright and early before the sun sometimes and wants to go out. And so I don't get to sleep in as much as I would like because of these external fact people that I prayed for. Sometimes you get what you pray for and it mess with your sleep and your peace and your rest. Okay. So the people in my house and when the pandemic came, I didn't get to leave and just sit in the garage. Sitting in that garage is finishing up my food by myself. Now I don't get to go and finish up my food by myself and listen to my music. So the little humdinger, the folks in my house are pitfalls to my self care, but I love them. I appreciate them. I'm not complaining that much about them, but they are pitfalls sometimes. What are your thoughts?
Now, Dr. Manis, you know I can definitely agree with that pitfall because I'm in a similar situation. Like you say, you know, when you come home from a long day of work, you know, you headed to the second to the third job because you have to get on wife and mother duty. So I definitely can understand, understand that. But I think one of my pitfalls is also, y'all, I just have to be real with y'all family.
Be
I
real.
struggle with superwoman syndrome. And that's my nickname for myself. I feel like it's a superpower where it's a blessing and a curse at the same time. But I just feel like, I have to be everywhere. I have to be hands-on at all times. And, it's just hard for me to sit down and stop sometimes. It's hard for me to say no, Dr. Maddox. I've been working on it. Doing a little better. And I think I saw somebody put in the chat or somewhere procrastination. And yes, definitely procrastination is a pitfall for me.
Yes, that was Roz Lauren that said procrastination, and I had to echo it. Dr. Nash.
I was just going to add, the S on the chest. The women that are surrounding me on this panel are absolutely amazing. And I remind you know how we do when you remember when your mom used to say, "Do as I say, not as I do," right? So we can go and we can talk to women about how you don't have to have an S on your chest. You can take your cape off. Guess what? Take the cape off. But we all do it. And so for me, even though I don't have kids, when I hear in my brain, you should be doing X, that should word is my pitfall. I'm like, wait a minute, why should I? My house is a mess right now. It should be clean, but so what? I've been on overdrive at work for the last 3 days, literally. So last night, all I did was have my dinner in my bed, period. Okay, that's all I did.
Self
So
care.
exactly. So that should word is my pitfall because I can figure out, we're all passionate about what we do. We're passionate about our families. We're passionate about our jobs. We give 110% there and community. So we can always put that should, oh, I should be doing X, should be doing, should is a pitfall for me.
So persons that we love, procrastination, shoulds, superwoman syndrome, yes, and family for the let the superwoman syndrome be your reminder to share this because share it with the other superwomen in your life. Go ahead and share it and just say, "All my superwomen tune in," because they really need to hear this. Yeah, Kenyatta Myers, I'm learning to not say yes to everything. Sometimes you have to say no. Yes, Miss Myers, yes. I want you to understand it can be easier to say supercalifragilisticexpialidocious than to say no sometimes. And so practice your no. Cherise Allen says, meeting needs that are not hers to meet. Oh,
Amen.
goodness gracious, my hands, my toes, my ears, all of that. Everything she said right there. Yes. Dr. Ali, Dr. Jones, you want to add anything?
Yes, for me, it's so similar, the superwoman syndrome. And then it's kind of like a self-sabotage. I sign up for a lot of stuff and then I worry about it. I worry about it until it happens. And then, or even if sometimes I can't do it, I feel so disappointed in myself. And so Dr. Mattis has really honed in on me. Hey, say no, say no. And it's okay to say no. And then surround yourself with people that it's okay if you say no to them. So I have learned to do that. So, but my biggest thing is holding myself accountable for things that are in my control and not in my control, and feeling like I can control it and it doesn't go the way I want, and so, or the way it's expected by someone else, and feeling so disappointed with myself. I do have to say, you know what, I'm still doing pretty good. It's okay if I failed at those 2 or 3 things. If I didn't try, you know, how would I have known? So I'm okay with that. What did I learn from that?
That's
And
it.
and then I had to move on. So I'm learning how to do that, and I've been doing a pretty good job with that. And the divorce had a lot taught me that, if nothing else. Learning how to go through a divorce and giving myself permission to be happy, understand that not everything was in my control. Some things were, some things weren't. My children are, yes, they're my responsibility, but I don't own them. They're separate people. I'm just stewards for them, and just being there to help them, and actually giving myself permission to not always succeed helps me be forgiving for other people, that I feel like, if they fall short, or being a comfort for others, and not being judgmental or having high standards, whatever they are. It's really helped me treat other people better.
I love it. There was so much to unpack in that, but I will settle on the fact that you are giving yourself permission not to be extraordinary in everything. And as you were talking about, sometimes you fail. My philosophy is if you learned and you made progress, you've not failed. And so I dare say you didn't fail. You just learned how not to do it the next time.
That's the truth.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Dr. Jones, would you like to add anything?
First off, I would like to ask Dr. Battle to give me her secret to not feeling guilty. At least in the beginning. That's a good one for me.
Just come to my house, you'll understand it.
In my Cat Healthy You challenge, that was one of the challenges a couple of weeks ago. It was to pick a day, sleep in, and not feel guilty about it. Because sometimes I sleep in, but as I'm laying there, like you said, my mind's going, I should be up doing this. Oh, I need to do this. Why am I laying here? And so I don't get to enjoy it because, all of this is going on here. So one of my big things is guilt. And I will admit, like Ms. Ross said, is procrastination, which has me working off of about 2 hours of sleep right at this moment, is my tendency to procrastinate. So definitely that is one of my biggest pitfalls because, I'm always kind of in motion and catching up on stuff. And I don't feel like I've earned to be able to kind of take a rest because nope, I should have did this. If I had got that done, then I could be doing, something else right now. So have to work on guilt and procrastination for sure.
I love it. I love that. And I love that you acknowledge that. For me, should is one of those ding, ding, ding words when I see that, because I will try to say during the pandemic, I remember when everybody was saying, I have to, that, I had to stay home. And I rephrased it to, I get to stay home. And just that little word shift made me feel a little bit different, because remember, I had been praying for more quality time with my family. Lord, I was seeing that. I have been for opportunities to cook healthier. I mean, all of that, and so when when it opened up, that should can really weigh you down. I found that words like should can really impact how my shoulders feel. That tense. That be careful what you pray for.
Amen.
But the thing though, be thankful for what you pray for, because even though we were in the middle of a pandemic, I did have to start saying, thank you for this opportunity to da 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 da, because that gratitude and that shift of just a little bit of a shift in your perspective can really change how your body feels and how you feel as well. So I love it. I love it. I love it. And I like the information that we're sharing. Something that kept coming in was about Superwoman. And Dr. Nash, do you want to jump in? It looks like you had something to say
Yeah,
before.
I just wanted to add, when we're talking about this superwoman syndrome, it is throughout our lives. And I will give you a specific example right now. As we grow older, we become caregivers of our parents, our older parents, and that's what I'm living right now, and should play out there too. And trying to be all, to be everything, to be, I cannot be her healthcare provider, her daughter, her care coordinator, her entertainment, her social outlet, all in one. So shoulds are there too. So I'm glad we're having this discussion among us across the whole spectrum of what a woman is and what a woman does.
Absolutely, absolutely. Oh my gosh. And I think I know one of the topics we're going to talk about in the future, and that's the caregiver topic, because that is certainly weighing in our communities. As we are talking about being the superwoman and what that looks like, it looks like, as someone earlier said, I think it was Miss Myers that talked about taking on responsibilities or stuff that's not ours. They're just talking to us, and then we get into fix it mode, and they weren't even asking us. And so sometimes we take on stuff, and sometimes when people offer us stuff, I was offered a business opportunity. I didn't even want to hear the business opportunity. I said, I don't have any room on my plate, my cup, my table, my floor, in my house for any other business venture. Period. I don't even want to hear about it, which may not have been a good move, but I just thought, listen, unless I can take some sleep off my plate, I'm not willing to do it. How do you burn your superwoman cape and become good enough in this climate when you may have heard from your mothers that that you are to represent every black woman on the planet, and they may never see another black person, and so you are to be the prototype of the black woman, and you have all these internal pressures to appear perfect. How do you move away from that in your self-care? Because that right there can be a burden that is heavy?
I think for me, Dr. Maddox is, I've heard it over and over again that, if you don't take care of yourself, you're no good to anyone else. And so I think that's what helps me to try to stay a little bit grounded when I think I'm superwoman and, doing too much, then I have to realize that, for example, with my kids, I have to delegate tasks to them. 13 and 15-year-old, they're old enough to wash their own clothes. 13-year-old, you can clean your bathroom, keep your room clean, you can help wash dishes. So for me, it's about delegating tasks, but it's also knowing just when it's time for the cape off and just saying, hey, if I don't take at least 2 to 3 minutes or however long enough for me just to re-energize, and I'm not going to be good for anybody, kids, work, or anybody else. So that's how I know when it's time for me to, take the cape off.
And let me just tell you, I have discovered that there is such a thing as laundry services. I know I haven't done it yet, but I want you to know I'm going to this time next year when I come back on, I will have a laundry service. I'm speaking that thing that be not as though it could work, and it's coming into place. And so, laundry systems. Hire somebody, hire some folks if you can. If you got some kids, sometimes you feel like it's easier for you to do it than to have to tell them 17 different times to do it because they're being a little passive aggressive. So I need to get with you on that as well, Dr. Battle. All of us get with Dr. Battle. So yes,
Okay.
so delegation. What else? And as you're saying no, and it can feel really uncomfortable to say no, if you don't, a part of self care may not, maybe you can't get to know yet. Get to, that sounds like an amazing idea. I'm thankful that you thought of me and you'd like to work with me. Let me give that some thought. Okay, so if you can't say no right now, say, let me give it some thought and I will get back with you. And if you cannot find something that you can take off your plate other than sleep, if you can't, if this is not something that is mutually beneficial or a God idea for you, and it's not in your purpose, I challenge you to figure out a way to say no. Get your scripts for no down. Get your scripts for let me get back with you down. And burn those freaking superwomen capes, y'all. And I know they're fire resistant and they're gonna try to come back to you. But you have it's like herpes. You gotta keep treating. Under stress, it will come back. And so you have your script for yourself as well that you can refer to. You got to have your no scripts.
Yeah.
And remember, you're saying no. You're saying no to someone so that you can say yes to your purpose, yes to your vision, yes to your God idea. And you got to keep that in mind. So how we burning superwoman cape so that we can practice self-care, because burning your superwoman cape is self-care whether you like it or not.
Yeah, Dr. Maddox, you
Go ahead,
said,
Dr. Nash. I see.
yeah, there's a lot of stuff going through my mind. But you said something to me a long time ago, and it came up here in the chat too. I think someone put it in. No is a complete sentence. I've gone through my stages of, okay, I'm not going to answer you right away, right before when somebody's asked, because we're givers. We want to say yes, and we can make it fit in our passion and what we care about in our communities. Almost anything. We are creative, right? We can do that. But
Mm-hmm.
no is a complete sentence. If I say no with a period after it, I don't owe you an explanation. Now, I may be doing that in my head, but I don't, no is no. That is hard. I think that's important. And then for me, what I'm learning is that, or have learned, is that women and Black women in particular are very good at getting things done. We multitask to the hilt, and we have a halo effect, right? So when you
Mm-hmm.
get something done, people add more stuff to your plate,
Mhm.
right? More and more. And they think because you're good at this, then you're good at everything. Now, stay in your lane. I'm staying in my lane. If this is not my lane,
Mhm.
no, I'm not taking it on. If it's not my God given agenda, doesn't fit in it, no, period.
Yes. Yes. What she said. All of what she said. Yes. Yeah. And
I
I'm
don't
gonna
get
tell
it
you,
right. I don't get it right every day.
yeah. And it's interesting you said that because I remember I used to get annoyed because it seems like, but I realized there's, I think there's some scripture that says, if you're if you're diligent or something, a ruler of a few things, I'll make you ruler over many. And so, because it always seemed like if I was doing whatever, they would try to put me. I'm the president of the foot washing committee. I got that down. Well, why do you want me to be the president of security? Because you will show up. And whatever you say you're going to do, you'll be found trying to do it. And so understand that that is a vote on there's a vote of confidence, but don't be enamored with the vote of confidence. Receive it for what it is. I appreciate that you recognize that I'm diligent, but if I continue to let you add on to my plate, add on to my plate, add on to my plate, I'm going to resent you. Because here's the thing, I'm going to think you should see that I'm really busy and you should not ask me. And you know what they're thinking? They're thinking you should know if you're really busy and you should say no to me because I'm going to shoot my shot and maybe you'll say yes. But use your voice to identify what your needs are so that you're not resenting people in your place of purpose, in your place of ministry. Because we get mad at folks and haven't said a single thing to them. We mad at them because they ask us to do. I remember somebody asked me to watch the kids ministry. Now, anybody who knows me knows that's a bad idea. You shouldn't do that. That's not a good idea. Okay? That's not a good idea. Now, I didn't tell her, I don't really do children much. I mean, I like them from afar. I like them for 2 or 3 minutes, but an hour, that doesn't work for me. You know what I'm saying? And so I spent that entire hour not enjoying the kids, mad at the woman who had the audacity to ask me to work children's ministry. You didn't hear me say ministry, so that means it was at church, right? I'm mad. I didn't hear the sermon that day, but guess what? I had not used my voice. I had not said, me and kids, we don't do well together. I don't like them; they don't like me. This was pre children and all that. But now I love kids now, but back then, and still, you still shouldn't ask me to keep your children though. That's still like, like but I never said that's not good. And so, don't be mad at people, bitter at them, angry at them, and you've never used your voice to say that's not my gifting. Please don't. You're buying yourself some unnecessary grief. Dr. Nash, that
And
touched
then,
something.
and then one other thing I'll say, and it made me think about it from a chat that just came up. People want to make their problem your problem so that you take it on, especially if there's a time pressure, right? So if
Mhm.
someone is asking me to do something or want my buy-in and it's tomorrow, yeah, don't allow others to make their problem your problem because they're trying to pass it off to you and say, oh, yeah, you got 2 days to do this. Now, if you write my paycheck and you're my boss, that's a different story, maybe.
That is a different
Okay.
story.
Okay. But to your point, Dr. Maddox, if it's going to cause me increased stress, less sleep, make me ineffective at everything else that I do, I can't let other people's agendas and problems become my own because
Mhm.
of their time pressure.
hmm And
Yep.
my husband said it best when he said, "Your lack of planning does not make for an emergency on my part. It may be an urgency on your part, but it's not my emergency. It's yours." And so we have to let people, we have to call things what they are because it's your emergency and it's urgent, but it's not my emergency.
Mhm.
And I don't feel like I need to urgently drop everything to help you in many scenarios, And here's the thing, know that if you are always dropping things, then you are teaching people how to treat you. I have a friend who loves to say, you teach people how to treat you. And so if you drop everything and help them, it's happening again. It's
Mhm.
happening again. It's happening again. Do create a circle in your self-care, your in your life of creating self-care, making it a habit and not a luxury, but a lifestyle of self care, understand your tribe is so important. Who you surround yourself with. You surround yourself with people who use guilt to manipulate you into doing stuff. Bad idea. It's not going to work out well for you.
Mhm.
Dr. Jones, Dr. Ali, anything you want to add?
I think one of the things that I found myself doing, because I do have sometimes an issue with saying no, I offer a different maybe solution because I don't want to feel bad for saying no and feeling like, I'm leaving somebody hanging, but then
Mhm.
I'll try to offer another solution that doesn't involve me, but can still maybe get them to where they need to be. And I always think about a conversation that I had with someone not too long ago. I think in our community, people like to talk about this hustle mentality, or they feel
Mhm.
like it's a honor that they a hustler. Like that's a good thing, And I had to tell, I was like, I hustled through school, I hustled through undergrad, I hustled through med school. I don't want to hustle no more.
Yeah.
That's not where I am right now in my life. I don't want to do that, And it's okay, to take things on, like you said, kind of within what you're able to do, and that can be, your physical being, doing things physically and also mentally. You may not be in a space where you can take that on. And so it's
Mhm.
very, very important. I think someone flashed a comment down there that was similar to that. Like, you have to know where you are, what space you're in, and what you can
Mhm.
take on mentally and physically. Very, very.
Mhm. Mhm. I love it. I love it. Now, family, I knew that we would not have enough time, and we are getting we only probably have 10 minutes before I ask another question that we don't have time to answer. Let me just ask you, if you had to say three, give two or three strategies for how to um, practice self care and rest as a lifestyle, or how to avoid the pitfalls, what would you tell our audience? And I'll let either any of you jump in, but that's the question. Two or three strategies in a nutshell for how to practice self care, or to avoid the pitfalls, or you can just end on what you wanted to say that you didn't get a chance to say. Carry on.
I would
Well,
say,
okay.
Dr.
I do want to go back to the superwoman, so I want to add that. And I do think that that's a state of mind. And so, what I do for myself with that is I write down, I have a list of things that I need to do for the week. And I have to make this list. I've been doing this for years. And at the end of the week, just when I think that I haven't done anything to meet my goals, I look at that list and see what I've checked out and think, okay, I actually did do a good job this week. I actually am a superwoman, So for me, it's understanding that I actually am doing great. What I'm doing now, and what I'm doing now is above and beyond. And my list is usually challenging. It may take me 2 or 3 days to check off one thing, So I give myself, I guess, my own accolades at the end of the week when I accomplish those things. But if I have to say three things, I will say the meditation. Dr. Maddie spoke about journaling. I think journaling is really important. It lets you reflect on what how you feel. It can speak of gratitude, and then it also states your state of. It gives you the opportunity to talk about your state of mind at that time, and you can always go back. And getting that out is so important. And then something pleasurable, something indulgent. I do treat myself to that, and I try to do that daily, and it's just for me. So, and you can just paint a picture for that. And every day I try to figure out what that is. So that's
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. Pleasurable. It's for me. Writing your list down. Yes, I love it. Sometimes we think of it nails. Your nails, you're going to see them a lot. Give them some. You may be in conservative environments. Go crazy with your nails. Maybe you can't wear big jiggly hair, but your nails may make you happy or whatever. So I love those suggestions. Thank you so much. Anyone else want to add?
I would say to write it down and schedule it. Because if you have a doctor's appointment or you know T-ball practice is this day or you have a meeting, you're going to put those on your schedule. You know you have to be there. So if you have to start out writing in, whatever your form of self-care is and scheduling it, absolutely do that because you're important also. So those things you're going to make every effort to make it to your doctor's appointment. You're going to make it to that meeting. So when you put that time on your schedule for yourself, make sure you show up for it because you are showing up for yourself, your health, mentally, spiritually, and physically.
Show up for yourself. I love it. Write it down. So you've heard two ladies say, write it down. If you write it down, you're much more likely to check it off and do it and enjoy it. Yes, great, great, great. Next.
I think ditto, definitely the same thing. I have that on my list, right? And the way I frame it is put myself on the list. I have a list of everything that I have to do on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, however far out you plan. But put yourself on the list, both physically, mentally, and spiritually. But I think what I would add to what's already been said, these women are my support system. Um, you have to have your board of directors for your personal life. Those people who will call you and say, "Hey, how are you doing?" and really want an answer to that question. Or, "Hey, I'm just checking in." That is critically important and has been critically important throughout my life, and particularly through the pandemic and now. So I'd like to thank you for these women on the call today, personally and professionally.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And she is being really generous and kind because she is that person for us as well who will send a text, "Hey, how are you?" or pick up the phone. You know, she said on Saturday, such and such's face. I heard something in her voice. Is she okay? And so she's listening. She's not just hearing what you're saying. She's listening to how you're saying it. And it is so nice to know that people are checking in on you and truly seeing you, surrounding yourself with people who see you, who hear you, who even when you just pick up the phone, it's something about how you picked up the phone. She'll say something and I'll say, I heard what you said, but you were slow to say that. You want to come again? You want to revisit that? And so we all do that. We appreciate you too. I appreciate you too, Dr. Nash. Dr. Battle, the woman
Hey.
with kids.
It's really Look, it's really nothing left for me to say but amen to everything that has been said, the suggestions given. And if I just had one thing to add, I would just say, include some little woosah moments in there every day. You just have to inhale and exhale and just take a moment to breathe and relax and be intentional about having, time for you on a daily basis. But definitely agree to everything else that's been said.
Absolutely. I think it is so important for us to delegate those things that can be delegated. If you find yourself answering the same question over and over again, honey, create a Loom video or a Zoom video and put it in a fact section so you can take people to there. I love to automate as much as possible. I'm a lover of hiring people to clean, do the yard, do whatever. Hire somebody so that on your day off, you're not spending it cleaning up. I saw some, I'm married to an old school guy. So for a while, it was a struggle for me to agree to have somebody come to clean my house or to have help with my daughter. And because they weren't his expectations, they were my expectations for me based on the women in my life. And I saw a van that said, "Life is too short to clean your own house." And at that moment, It can. Yes, it is. It is too short for me to spend my Saturday doing laundry. Get your
Mm.
laundry service or whatever. But more than anything, you heard us say over and over again that we check on each other. Family, use your voice. If you are doing things out of guilt and not motivated by love, you may be being manipulated. Use your voice. And I always, almost always end on, honey, get yourself a psychiatrist, a therapist, a counselor, a coach. Yes, 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 yes. You know, there is nothing like a psychiatrist or a therapist to say they don't have any skin in the game. What you do is not going to impact their household at all. The insurance is going to pay them whether you do what they say or not. Okay, to have somebody to talk to that's not is not going to be biased in trying to get you to do something that benefits them. Get yourself a therapist, a counselor, a coach, somebody, so that you can. Ladies, I want you to know I love each and every one of you. You know I do. You know I absolutely do. I appreciate the pearls of wisdom that you shared. Audience, you are amazing. You stayed on there. Brother Mr. Myers, I'm sorry I kept calling you Miss Myers. My apologies. I appreciate that you stayed on. I thought we were going to have nothing but women on here today, but you stayed on. All of you who are listening, share, 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 share. This is one episode you absolutely should share because you know all those superwomen in your life need this. And if they don't need it now, they will need it later. And if you don't need it now, you will need it later. So go ahead and share. But before we go into your phone, uh, go to add in the calendar, put I'm not crazy, but type in blackdoctor.org, 11 p.m. Central Standard Time, 11 a.m. Central Standard Time, 12 p.m. Eastern Time, and come on back and have lunch with me next week. Every Thursday from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Central Standard Time or 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Time. I will be right here talking to amazing, amazing folks who are doing God's business and your business as well. We appreciate you. Remember to step outside of your comfort zone and make an impact. And ladies, we love you and we love you too, audience. Bye bye.